What's up, everyone? This is Landry here with the first ever episode of the Cheeseheadz Weekly podcast. So, just a little bit of an introduction, a little bit about myself, how I came to be a Packers fan in the first place. I live in PA, and my dad was from Wisconsin, though, and he moved out when he was about 15 or so. And so he was always a Packers fan, and I have always been a Packers fan as well. Never thought about being an Eagles fan, although I will admit I do like the Eagles. They just have some really exciting young players, and I've always liked Jalen Hurts. Even before this year, I really thought he had something. And so I do like the Eagles somewhat, but no, they are not my favorite team, even though they are the more local team. To start with, I think we'll just get into some news. I will say that each episode will be coming out Tuesday. It'll probably be around 15 minutes in length. I'm not going to do anything too long. I just want to keep it short and sweet and just have a lot of fun talking about Packers and everything else football. So, there were a few notable news updates coming out of the Divisional Round games last weekend. Tony Pollard suffered a broken leg and high ankle sprain in their loss to the 49ers. That is expected to take about 3 months for him to make a full recovery, and that could complicate things as he will be a free agent after the season. So we'll see what happens with him. Patrick Mahomes is the big name. He was landed on. His ankle was landed on by one of the Jags D linemen, and as he was sacked, and he has the mindset to play next game. He says, I'm going to be good to go. Andy Reid also says he does have the mindset to go. We'll see if he does go. It is something to note, though, that Andy Reid did not say himself that he's expecting him to play, but he's doing okay and undergoing treatment at this time. Also, Ezekiel Elliott, after the Cowboys' somewhat disappointing loss after a interesting, to say the least, play with 3 seconds left when they did that very weird formation. He says he wants to come back and play for the Cowboys, and I'm not really sure what the Cowboys were thinking on that last play. I was listening to the final seconds there, and on the radio, one of the radio announcers said that we're explaining the bizarre formation, and said that since they were even putting out that formation, that means they had practiced. They knew what they were doing with it. Well, I guess you could say that. Maybe they had practice with it, but that certainly did not seem to help anything, because Zeke got smacked immediately. They sent 2 guys right at him, and Dak just had to get the ball away quick, threw it to Turpin, who had a guy immediately right there. So, not exactly a good way to end the game. I would have just tried a Hail Mary or maybe a little hook and ladder and at least give Dak a little bit of time to throw the ball. But hey, that's the Cowboys for you. They just don't seem to do well in the playoffs. Patriots are expected to hire Bill O'Brien as their new offensive coordinator. If I read that right, I believe he has been with the Patriots before. Spent 5 seasons under Belichick from 2007 to 2011. Also, Tom Brady still isn't saying anything about his future. Says if I already knew what I was going to do, in my own words, then I would have already done it. So he's wanting to take some time. Mixed in some profanity around that statement. So obviously I wasn't going to quote him directly. That pretty much wraps up the main news. San Francisco 49ers defeated the Dallas Cowboys 19-12. Also in the other NFC game, the number 1 seeded Philadelphia Eagles defeated the New York Giants for the 3rd time this season, 38-7. Big win for the Eagles. Move on to the championship. Also, the number 1 seeded in the AFC, Chiefs, defeated the Jacksonville Jaguars with a hobbled Mahomes, 27-20. And Mahomes' status will be closely monitored going into championship weekend. And then the Cincinnati Bengals had a decisive 27-10 win over the Buffalo Bills. There's some talk about Stephon Diggs was frustrated with his QB and just probably with the team in general, just how things were going. It's understandable, and Brandon Beane, the Bills GM, just kind of wrote that off as like, yeah, he just wants to win. So, as do we all, is all I have to say about that. So, I'm going to go into my thoughts, reactions on the divisional round games. Chiefs looked pretty good when they were rolling. They looked pretty well in control from what I saw. I will say this much, I did not watch any of these games. I listened to the end of the Niners-Cowboys game, that was it. So I'm just going just by what I've seen in the news and what the score looks like, and I did follow a few of the games a little bit. But big win for the Chiefs to keep themselves alive, and they'll hope that they can have Mahomes next week. Bengals win that one. They were looking pretty good throughout that one, also looking pretty well in control. Josh Allen, there was some talk afterwards about his elbow. I'm not sure if he re-injured it during the game or if he's just dealing with reoccurring problems with that. When he injured it, elbow sprain he dealt with earlier in the season. But he says he's looking at rest, not surgery, for that during the offseason. Giants came into their game against the number 1 seeded Eagles in the NFC with a lot of momentum after defeating the Minnesota Vikings, which I must say I like to see, but that resulted in 1 touchdown. So, I mean, I was rooting for the Eagles in that game, although I would have seen the Giants would have liked to see the Giants put up a better performance. And I might have even rooted for them, if not for the fact that I do have the Eagles winning the Super Bowl. Ever since mid-season, I made that prediction. Eagles slowed down since then, but then it looks like they're back to mid-season form, and we'll see. Jalen Hurts seems to be back, fully healthy, doing his thing. So, we will see where the Eagles go and see if they can win versus the 49ers. That is going to be a really fun game next week. two, in my opinion, the two most complete teams in the NFL. And I know everyone's predicting the AFC teams to win in the Super Bowl, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. You never know. But, yeah, really complete teams in the Eagles and Niners. And it should be quite interesting to see who can win that game. Pretty excited about that one. In the Cowboys-Niners game. Very low scoring, a lot of defense. But the Niners got it done. Off of a few miscues, Dalton Schultz stepping out of bounds towards the end of the game. And, yeah, Dak, after the game, said it's shouldered the blame. It's like, yep, that's 100% on me. So, yeah, Cowboys choke again in the playoffs. I must say I very much predicted the 49ers to win that one just because of that. So that will wrap up my reactions to last weekend. For a little Packers analysis this week, I would like to talk a little bit about their loss in Week 18 to the Lions. Just, not a very good game overall by the Packers. Felt like they were playing from behind. Although I must say, I do try to watch every Packers game. I did not watch that one. Had something going on in the evening. So we could not watch that game. Except for right towards the end of the game. I did happen to watch a little bit, like 2 or 3 plays, and then Rodgers threw the interception, and then I was like, okay, we done. And yeah, that pretty much ended the game. And yeah, just not a good throw by Rodgers. Watson was pretty well covered. And if he was going to try to throw it that way, he's going to have to place the ball a little bit better. At least if you're going to throw it away, sail it over his head instead of trying to throw back shoulder or make him stop or something. I don't know. Just not good by Rodgers. And we've seen kind of too much of that throughout the year. I mean, it was kind of bound to happen. I was really disappointed. I was like, yeah, after that Vikings game, Week 17, I'm like, yeah, we're rolling. We can do something here. But didn't happen because we just kind of choked. And that's kind of been a theme in the playoffs, and this was pretty much a playoff game. We win, we're in. But we've never really been the same this whole year without Davante Adams. So, I don't know. It feels like a long way. And I felt the Packers offense could almost be better with Davante Adams. With Rodgers kind of spreading the ball around a little bit more. Because, in their loss last year in the playoffs to the 49ers, it was, some talk about missing Lazard open, instead throwing to, double, triple coverage down the field to Adams. And I realize Adams is a playmaker, and he's got some very improbable completions into double coverage before. But it's not going to happen, okay? He's not a superhuman, and the 49ers focused on taking away Adams, and it worked. And obviously, special teams played a big part in that. They could have still eked out a win and hopefully figured it out after that game. But they haven't been the same this year with Adams, although I do think Watson will blossom into a star. Yeah, they're just kind of bound to happen. Rodgers kind of had a 2018-like season. Just kind of missing throws, throwing a little more interceptions, just not looking like Aaron Rodgers, at least not a back-to-back MVP, reigning MVP. So, I mean, yeah, it kind of looked like that. Got really close to the playoffs, looked good at spots, kind of threw a few sparks around, whatever, but the sparks just kind of went out. So they're very cold and lifeless at this point in time. We'll see what Rodgers decides to do. And we'll see about next season. But I do like the way this team looks. I think they should have played better, especially on defense, with all the talent they had. Some of the veterans took a step back. And, Devontae Wyatt, he probably should have got more playing time because he was pretty good when he was out there. But it is what it is. Hopefully Quay Walker can also get his anger problem under control. And hopefully the Packers will be back. And whether it's with Jordan Love, with Aaron Rodgers, maybe they'll be back next season and be able to win some games, maybe even get in the playoffs and be contenders again next year. But yeah, a pretty big disappointment overall on the season. But at least on offense, they do have some young players to build around. And the draft class, I think overall was pretty solid. We saw some potential. Not a whole lot of production, but you can't really expect that. And that's what we were hoping for. And we did get a good bit of production, but, maybe not quite enough. But I think a lot of it is on Rodgers. But I'm sure it is hard adjusting from throwing, mostly, like almost all the time to Adams, and then you had to adjust to throwing to rookies. And there were some miscues by them, so I guess we will see what happens next season. That, I guess, will conclude the first episode of Cheeseheadz Weekly. I do have a link in the description. You can send in a voice message. If, maybe a question, comment on the show, what you liked, what you didn't like. I just like some feedback. Feel free to rate the show, whatever you think for that. But I could use that, just to help build up followers and everything as well. It'd be nice if you could follow the show. It'll help support the podcast, and so we can keep getting better and grow the show. And I guess that is it. Thanks for listening, everyone, and stay tuned next Tuesday for my reactions to championship weekend.